The note was tucked beneath my prescription bottle, folded so small I almost missed it. My hands trembled as I unfolded the tiny piece of paper in the pharmacy parking lot. The words were written in urgent, cramped handwriting. "Mrs. Patterson, your daughter is poisoning you. Check your vitamin bottle. The vitamins aren't vitamins. Get a lab test immediately. Your symptoms aren't dementia, they're arsenic poisoning. Please get help before it's too late." Tom, pharmacist, I sat in my car, the world spinning around me. The prescription bag fell from my lap onto the floor. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Arsenic, poisoning my own daughter. My name is Helen Patterson and I'm 68 years old. 3 years ago, my beloved husband Charles died of a sudden heart attack, leaving me alone in our family home. Within 2 months, my daughter Sarah, her husband Marcus, and their 2 teenage children moved in with me. "We can't let you live alone, Mom," Sarah had said, tears in her eyes. "You need family around you. We'll take care of you." And I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. For the first year, everything seemed fine. Sarah cooked meals, Marcus handled the yard work, and my grandchildren, Emma and Jake, brought life back into a house that had felt tomb-like after Charles's death. I was grateful. I told everyone how lucky I was to have such a devoted family. But then, about 8 months ago, things started changing. I began feeling tired all the time, exhausted in a way I'd never experienced before. My hands would shake. My stomach hurt constantly. I had trouble concentrating, trouble remembering simple things. Some days I couldn't remember if I'd eaten breakfast or what day of the week it was. "Mom, I'm worried about you," Sarah said one morning after I'd forgotten to turn off the stove. "You're getting confused. I think we need to take you to a doctor." The doctor Sarah found a young man named Dr. Harrison who just opened his practice, ran some basic tests, and diagnosed me with early-onset dementia. He prescribed medications that made me feel even worse. The shaking got worse, the confusion intensified. There were days I could barely get out of bed. "It's progressing faster than we hoped," Dr. Harrison told Sarah during my last appointment. I was right there in the room, but they talked about me like I wasn't. "We should start thinking about care options. Full-time supervision, maybe a facility." A facility. The words had hung in the air like a death sentence. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the vitamins. Every morning for the past 8 months, Sarah had been giving me a handful of vitamins with my breakfast. "These will help with your energy, Mom," she'd say with that concerned smile. "The doctor recommended them specially for you." Large horsebill-sized capsules, brown and orange. They made me nauseous, but Sarah insisted I take them. "You have to, Mom, doctor's orders." Now, sitting in this pharmacy parking lot, clutching Tom's note, I understood. Those weren't vitamins. They were poison. My own daughter had been poisoning me for 8 months, making me sick, making me seem confused and incompetent so she could, what? Put me in a home, take my house? My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. I needed to call someone. But who? Sarah handled all my appointments now. She'd taken over my finances to help me 3 months ago. She screened my calls, saying people were stressing me out and I needed rest. I'd been so isolated, so dependent on her, that I didn't even know who to call anymore. "Think, Helen, think clearly, you're not crazy. You're not losing your mind, you've been poisoned." I looked at Tom's note again. "Get a lab test immediately." I started my car with trembling hands and drove directly to the hospital emergency room. I wasn't going home, not yet. Not until I knew the truth. The ER doctor was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Her name tag read Dr. Elizabeth Morrison. "Mrs. Patterson," she said after I'd explained everything through tears. "I'm going to run a comprehensive toxicology panel. If there's arsenic or any other poison in your system, we'll find it. But I need to ask you some questions first." She pulled out a tablet and started typing as I talked. "Tell me about your symptoms over the past 8 months. I described everything. The exhaustion, the shaking, the stomach pain, the confusion, the memory problems. As I talked, I saw her expression grow more serious. "And your daughter is the one who's been giving you these vitamins?" "Every single morning. She hands them to me with breakfast and watches me take them." "Does anyone else in the household take vitamins?" "No." She said these were prescribed specifically for my condition. Dr. Morrison's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Patterson, arsenic poisoning presents with exactly the symptoms you're describing. Chronic low-dose exposure causes fatigue, confusion, tremors, gastrointestinal problems, symptoms that could easily be mistaken for dementia, especially in an elderly patient. But why? I whispered. Why would my own daughter do this to me? That's a question for the police, Dr. Morrison said gently. But first, let's get you tested. And Mrs. Patterson, don't go home tonight, stay here. Let us run these tests and keep you somewhere safe. The blood work took 4 hours. I sat in a private ER room hooked up to an IV for hydration while I waited. My phone rang constantly, Sarah calling, Marcus calling, even my grandchildren. I didn't answer. Dr. Morrison had advised me not to communicate with anyone until we had the test results. At 8 p.m., Dr. Morrison came back into my room. Her face told me everything before she even spoke. Mrs. Patterson, you have significantly elevated levels of arsenic in your blood. Based on the concentration, I'd estimate you've been exposed to consistent low doses for at least 6 to 8 months. The room tilted. Even though I'd suspected it, even though Tom had warned me, hearing it confirmed felt like being hit by a truck. Someone has been deliberately poisoning you, Dr. Morrison continued. I'm required by law to report this to the police. They'll need to investigate. My daughter, I said, my voice barely a whisper. My own daughter has been trying to kill me. We don't know that yet, Dr. Morrison said carefully. But we need to find out who has been giving you these substances and why. 2 police detectives arrived at 9 p.m. Detective Sarah Chen and Detective Marcus Rodriguez. They were both in their 40s, professional and direct. Mrs. Patterson, Detective Chen began, pulling out a notepad. Tell us everything from the beginning. I told them about Charles's death, about Sarah and Marcus moving in, about how Sarah had taken over my life gradually. The doctor visits to Dr. Harrison, the dementia diagnosis, the daily vitamins, the increasing control over my finances and communication with the outside world. And the pharmacist who warned you, Tom, Detective Rodriguez asked. What pharmacy? Greenfield Pharmacy on Main Street. Tom has been filling my prescriptions for years. He knows me. We'll need to speak with him, Detective Chen said. And we'll need those vitamin bottles. Did you bring them with you? No, they're at home, in my bathroom cabinet. We're going to need to get those, Detective Rodriguez said. With your permission, we'd like to go to your home tonight and retrieve them. We'll also need to speak with your daughter and son-in-law. My stomach clenched. They'll know something's wrong. I didn't go home. I didn't answer their calls. Mrs. Patterson, Detective Chen said gently, they already know something's wrong. The question is whether they'll try to hide evidence. We need to move quickly. At 10 p.m., I sat in an interview room at the police station while Detectives Chen and Rodriguez executed a search warrant at my home. Dr. Morrison had admitted me to the hospital under a false name for observation, but I'd insisted on coming to the station first. I needed to know what they found. At 11:30 p.m., Detective Chen came back into the interview room. Her expression was grave. Mrs. Patterson, we found the vitamin bottles. We're sending them to the lab for analysis, but I need to show you something. She placed an evidence bag on the table. Inside was a bottle labeled Women's Daily Multivitamin. This is what was in your bathroom cabinet, but when we opened it, we found these. She showed me photos on her tablet. The capsules inside weren't the brown and orange ones I'd been taking. They were completely different, standard-looking multivitamins. Sarah switched them, I breathed. She knew something was wrong. When I didn't come home, she switched the bottles. That's what we think, Detective Rodriguez said, entering the room. But here's the interesting part. We found a second bottle, hidden in the back of the linen closet behind towels. Same label, but with different capsules inside, brown and orange ones matching your description. He placed another evidence bag on the table. She tried to hide them but didn't have time to dispose of them properly. We also found a receipt in the trash from a chemical supply company. Someone in your household ordered arsenic trioxide 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I repeated. That's when Sarah took over my finances. That's when she said I was getting too confused to manage my own accounts. Detective Chen leaned forward. Mrs. Patterson, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Do you have any assets that your daughter might want? Life insurance? Property? Savings? I took a deep breath. This was the moment to reveal the secret I'd kept even from Sarah. Detectives, there's something my daughter doesn't know. Something only my late husband and my attorney knew. Both detectives looked at me with renewed interest. 25 years ago, I wrote a novel, just for fun, never expecting anything to come of it. I used a pen name, Elizabeth Hartley. The book was a romance novel called Whispers of the Heart. I saw Detective Rodriguez's eyes widen. Wait, Elizabeth Hartley, the Elizabeth Hartley who wrote the Hartley romance series? Yes, I confirmed. Over the next 20 years, I wrote 15 more books. They became bestsellers. The series has sold over 50 million copies worldwide. It's been translated into 30 languages. There have been movie adaptations, merchandise, everything. My God, Detective Chen whispered. How much money are we talking about? Between book sales, royalties, movie rights, and investments, my estate is worth approximately $5 million. But I kept it secret. I never wanted my family to know. I wanted them to love me for me, not for what I had. And your daughter doesn't know any of this? Detective Rodriguez asked. I didn't think so. But 3 months ago, something changed. That's when she suddenly insisted on managing my finances. That's when the poisoning symptoms got worse. I think she found out somehow. Detective Chen was already typing on her tablet. We need to check her computer, her search history. If she discovered your identity as Elizabeth Hartley, there will be a digital trail. There's more, I said quietly. 2 months ago, I told Sarah I was thinking about donating most of my estate to charity when I die. I mentioned I'd been talking to my lawyer about setting up a foundation for literacy programs. I didn't specify amounts because I was still pretending I only had my Social Security and Charles's small pension. But if she'd found out about the real money and then heard I was planning to give it away, she'd have a motive to kill you before you could change your will, Detective Chen finished. Mrs. Patterson, do you have a current will? Yes, it leaves everything to Sarah. It was written 20 years ago, back when the money was first starting to come in. I kept meaning to update it to create the charitable foundation, but I never got around to it. So as things stand now, Detective Rodriguez said slowly, if you die, Sarah inherits $5 million. Yes. And if she had you declared mentally incompetent due to dementia, she could potentially take control of your assets while you're still alive. I suppose so. I never thought about it that way. Detective Chen closed her tablet. Mrs. Patterson, I think your daughter found out about your money. She's been poisoning you to either kill you for the inheritance or to make you appear mentally incompetent so she could control your assets. When you mentioned donating to charity, she probably panicked and accelerated her timeline. What happens now? I asked, my voice small. Now we arrest your daughter for attempted murder. The arrest happened at 1:30 a.m. I wasn't there. I was back in the hospital, admitted under guard for my own safety, but Detective Chen called me afterward to tell me what happened. Sarah claimed complete innocence at first, Detective Chen said. She said she had no idea what we were talking about, that she'd been taking care of you, that this was all a misunderstanding. But when we showed her the receipt for the arsenic, when we told her we found the hidden bottle with the poison capsules, she broke down. Did she confess? Not exactly, but she said something interesting. She said I had to do it. She was going to give it all away, 50 years of work, and she was going to give it all to strangers. I closed my eyes, so it was true. She'd known about the money. How did she find out? I asked. We found the answer on her laptop. 6 months ago, she was cleaning out your attic and found a box of old contracts and royalty statements from your publisher. She started investigating. She found your pen name, your body of work, everything. She also found your communications with your attorney about establishing the charitable foundation. So she started poisoning me. Yes. The receipt shows she ordered the arsenic 4 months ago. She'd been researching online how to poison someone slowly to make it look like natural decline. We found her search history, how to induce dementia symptoms, untraceable poisons. How long does arsenic take to kill someone? It's all there. And Marcus. My grandchildren, Marcus claims he didn't know. We're investigating, but so far it looks like Sarah acted alone. Your grandchildren definitely had no knowledge. Marcus said Sarah had become secretive and controlling over the past few months, that she wouldn't let him be involved in your care. He thought she was just being overprotective. So he wasn't part of it? We don't think so. But we're still investigating. I lay back on my hospital bed, processing everything. My daughter, my baby girl, the child I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for. She'd tried to kill me for money. Detective Chen, I said quietly, there's something else you should know about Sarah. What is it? Sarah has always struggled financially. She and Marcus have been in debt for years: credit cards, personal loans, the mortgage on their old house before they moved in with me. About 6 months ago, just around the time she found those contracts, she told me they were facing bankruptcy. She was crying, desperate. She asked if I could help them, maybe take out a second mortgage on my house to give them money. And what did you say? I said no. I told her that helping them financially wouldn't solve their underlying problems, that they needed to address their spending habits. I offered to help them create a budget, to work with a financial counselor. But I refused to just give them money. How did she react? She was furious. She didn't speak to me for days. Marcus had to mediate. Then suddenly she was sweet again. She apologized, said she understood, said she'd been stressed, and took it out on me. That was when she started being really attentive, cooking my favorite meals, taking me to doctors, giving me those vitamins. She was already planning it, Detective Chen said. She'd just found out you had $5 million, you'd refused to help her with her debts, and she'd heard you were planning to give the money to charity. So she decided to kill you and take it all. The coldness of it took my breath away. The calculation, the premeditation, the willingness to watch me suffer day after day, month after month, all while playing the devoted daughter. There's one more thing, Detective Chen said. We found something else on her computer. Draft documents for having you declared mentally incompetent. She'd been in contact with a lawyer, not your lawyer, a different one, about the process. She had doctor's notes from Dr. Harrison documenting your declining mental state. Dr. Harrison. Was he part of it? We're investigating him too. His diagnosis seems suspicious, given that you never actually had dementia. We're looking into whether Sarah paid him or manipulated him somehow. After Detective Chen hung up, I lay in the dark hospital room, hooked up to IVs that were flushing the arsenic from my system. My body would recover, Dr. Morrison had assured me. With treatment and time, the physical damage would heal. But how do you heal from the knowledge that your own child tried to murder you? The next morning, Tom from the pharmacy visited me in the hospital. He was in his late 50s with gray hair and worried eyes. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, standing awkwardly at the foot of my bed. "I'm so sorry. I should have said something sooner. You saved my life," I told him. "Don't apologize." "I suspected something was wrong for months," he confessed. "You'd come in with prescriptions from Dr. Harrison, medications that didn't make sense for dementia. And you kept getting worse instead of better. Then last week, your daughter came in asking about supplements that could cause confusion or memory problems. She said it was for a friend, but something about the way she asked made me suspicious. So you warned me." I couldn't prove anything. I had no evidence, but I couldn't just watch you deteriorate either. I risked my license by giving you that note without concrete proof. "You risked your license to save my life," I corrected. "Tom, I can never thank you enough." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "I've known you for 15 years, Mrs. Patterson. I've filled your prescriptions since your husband was alive. You're a good woman. You didn't deserve what was happening to you." After Tom left, my attorney arrived. Jonathan Blackwell, who'd been handling my affairs for 25 years, looked shaken. "Helen, my God, when the police called me, I couldn't believe it." "Sarah did this?" "Sarah did this," I confirmed. "Jonathan, I need to change my will immediately, today." "Of course, what do you want to do?" "I want to establish the charitable foundation we discussed. The Helena Foundation for Literacy. I want most of my estate to go there, $4 million. I want the foundation to provide free books to underprivileged children, fund literacy programs, support libraries. And the remaining million," I thought carefully. $500,000 to Marcus if the investigation confirms he wasn't involved in Sarah's scheme. He's been a good father to my grandchildren, and this isn't his fault. $250,000 to Emma and Jake, my grandchildren, to be held in trust until they're 25. They're innocent in this. And the rest to be divided among organizations that fight elder abuse. Nothing to Sarah, nothing to Sarah. She'll be in prison where she belongs." Jonathan nodded, taking notes. "I'll draw up the papers today. You can sign them as soon as you're released from the hospital." "There's one more thing," I said. "I want to write a book about this. A true crime memoir. The daughter who poisoned me or something like that. All proceeds to go to the foundation. If people are going to know about my secret identity as Elizabeth Hartley, they might as well know the whole truth." Jonathan smiled slightly. "That's very brave of you, Helen. No, I said. It's necessary. There are other elderly people out there being abused by their families, being poisoned or neglected or stolen from. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know there's hope, that there are people like Tom who will help, that they can fight back. You're going to be quite famous after this, Jonathan warned. The best-selling author who survived her daughter's murder attempt. The media will be relentless. Let them come, I said. I've spent 68 years being quiet, being modest, hiding my success. I'm done hiding. It's time to speak up. The next 3 days were a blur of police interviews, medical treatments, and media calls. Jonathan screened everything, but the news had leaked. Best-selling author Elizabeth Hartley had been poisoned by her daughter, and the story was everywhere. My hospital room filled with flowers from readers I'd never met, from authors who'd been inspired by my work, from women's groups and elder advocacy organizations. The outpouring of support was overwhelming. But the most meaningful visit came on the third day from my grandchildren. Emma was 17, Jake was 15. They came in with their father Marcus, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. The police had cleared him. He genuinely hadn't known what Sarah was doing. "Grandma," Emma said, bursting into tears the moment she saw me. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what Mom was doing." I pulled her into a hug, feeling how thin she was, how she shook with sobs. "I know, sweetheart, I know you didn't." Jake stood at the foot of the bed, his hands shoved in his pockets, his face a mask of teenage anger trying not to crack. "Is Mom really going to prison?" "Yes," I said gently. "What she did was very serious. She tried to kill me, Jake. That's attempted murder. She'll be in prison for a long time." "Good," he said fiercely. "I hope she never gets out." "I hate her for what she did to you." "Don't hate her," I said, surprising myself. "She's still your mother. She's sick in a different way than she claimed I was. Something went wrong in her, something broke. She let greed and desperation turn her into someone unrecognizable. But she's still human, still your mother. You don't have to forgive her, but don't let hate poison you the way greed poisoned her." Marcus wiped his eyes. "Helen, I don't know what to say. I didn't know about the money, about the books, about any of it. I thought we were just taking care of you. I thought Sarah was being a good daughter." "I believe you, Marcus. The police believe you. You're not responsible for what Sarah did. But where do we go from here? Emma and Jake need their grandmother, and I don't know how to explain to them why their mother did this." "You tell them the truth," I said simply. "The truth is always better than lies, no matter how painful. And as for where we go from here, forward, we go forward. I've changed my will. You and the kids are provided for. You'll have enough to start over, to build a new life." "We don't want your money," Emma said fiercely. "We just want you to be okay." "I know, sweetheart, but you're going to need it. Marcus, you'll need to find a new place to live. My house is a crime scene right now, and even after the investigation is complete, I don't think I can ever go back there. Too many bad memories." "What will you do?" Marcus asked. "I'm going to buy a new house. Something smaller, somewhere peaceful, maybe by the beach. I'm going to write my memoir. I'm going to run my foundation. And I'm going to really live for the first time in years." 6 months later, I stood in my new home, a beautiful cottage overlooking the ocean with a sunroom perfect for writing. The walls were painted in soft blues and whites. Large windows let in the sea breeze and the sound of waves. Emma and Jake visited every weekend. Marcus had found a job as a high school teacher and an apartment near the school where Emma was finishing her senior year. They were healing slowly, building a new normal without Sarah. Sarah herself was awaiting trial. She'd pled not guilty, claiming temporary insanity, but with all the evidence against her, the computer searches, the arsenic receipt, the hidden bottle, her own partial confession, everyone knew it was just a delay tactic. She'd be convicted. The question was just how long her sentence would be. I'd started writing my memoir. It was harder than any of my romance novels had been, forcing myself to relive those months of confusion and fear, to examine how I'd missed the signs, to understand how my own daughter had become my would-be killer. But it was also cathartic. Every word I wrote felt like a step toward healing. I had a publicist now, handling all the media requests, had told me that advance interest in the memoir was enormous. Pre-orders were already in the hundreds of thousands. The movie rights had been optioned. I was scheduled to appear on major talk shows, to do a documentary, to speak at conferences about elder abuse. "You're going to be more famous for being poisoned than you ever were for your novels," my publicist had joked. But that was okay. If my story helped even one elderly person recognize the signs of abuse, if it gave even one victim the courage to speak up, then the pain had meaning. I was in my sunroom, working on a particularly difficult chapter about the day I realized Sarah had been stealing from me financially, when my phone rang. It was Detective Chen. "Mrs. Patterson, I wanted to give you an update. Sarah's trial date has been set for 3 months from now, but there's been a development." "What kind of development?" "Sarah wants to speak with you. She's asking for a meeting. You don't have to agree, of course. We can deny the request." I sat back in my chair looking out at the ocean. Did I want to see her? Did I want to hear what she had to say? "What does her lawyer say?" I asked. "He says she wants to apologize. That she's been in therapy, that she's come to terms with what she did, that she needs closure." Closure for whom? For her or for me? That's the question, isn't it? I thought about it for a long moment. Part of me never wanted to see Sarah again. The betrayal was too deep, the hurt too raw. But another part of me, the mother part that would never fully die despite everything, needed to look her in the eye one more time. Needed to hear her say the words, needed to understand if understanding was even possible. "Set up the meeting," I said finally, "but it will be on my terms, at the police station with you present, recorded for the record. And if at any point I want to leave, the meeting ends immediately. Of course, I'll arrange it." The meeting took place 2 weeks later in an interview room at the police station. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one Charles had always said brought out my eyes, and I kept my head high as Detective Chen escorted me into the room. Sarah was already there, sitting at a metal table in an orange jumpsuit. She looked terrible. Her hair, always so carefully styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She'd lost weight, developed dark circles under her eyes. Her hands were shaking. When she saw me, she started crying. "Mom," she whispered. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I sat down across from her, my hands folded on the table. Detective Chen stood by the door. A video camera in the corner recorded everything. "Why did you do it, Sarah?" I asked quietly. "That's what I need to understand." "Why?" "The money," she said, her voice breaking. "When I found those contracts in the attic, when I realized you'd been secretly wealthy all these years while Marcus and I struggled, while we went into debt, while we nearly lost everything, I just snapped. I was so angry. Angry at me for having money, or angry at yourself for your own financial decisions?" She flinched. "Both. I don't know. It felt like you'd been lying to us. Like you'd been watching us suffer when you could have helped. I offered to help you. I offered to work with you on a budget, to connect you with a financial counselor. You refused. You didn't offer us money, you offered us advice. We needed money, not lectures. So you decided to kill me for it." The blunt words hung in the air. Sarah looked down at her hands. "I didn't think of it as killing you. I thought of it as speeding up the inevitable. You were 68. You'd lived a full life. I told myself you'd probably only have another few years anyway, so what difference did it make if you poisoned me?" I interrupted. "Sarah, you watched me suffer for 8 months. You watched me shake, vomit, forget things, become terrified that I was losing my mind. You held my hand while I cried about my dementia. You promised me you'd take care of me. And all the while, you were the one making me sick." "I know," she sobbed. "I know, and I hate myself for it. Every day in here I wake up and I can't believe I did it. It's like I became someone else. Someone I don't even recognize." That's the thing about greed, Sarah. It transforms you into someone you never thought you could become. It makes the unthinkable seem reasonable. It makes you justify the unjustifiable. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry." I looked at my daughter, this woman who'd once been my baby girl, who I'd rocked to sleep and taught to read and cheered for at school plays. I looked for some trace of that little girl in this woman who'd tried to murder me. "I can't forgive you, Sarah," I said finally. "Maybe someday, years from now, I'll be able to, but right now, the hurt is too fresh. The betrayal is too deep. You didn't just try to kill my body. You tried to destroy my mind, my dignity, my sense of self. You made me question my own sanity. I know, but I want you to know something. Emma and Jake, they're going to be okay. Marcus is going to be okay. I've made sure of that. They'll have what they need to build their lives. And they'll know the truth about what you did, but they'll also know that one person's choices don't define an entire family." "Are you going to let them visit me?" "In prison?" I considered the question. That's up to them, not me. They're old enough to make their own decisions. If they want a relationship with you, I won't stand in their way, but I won't encourage it either. They need to do what's right for their own healing. And you, Sarah asked, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. Will you ever visit me? No, I said gently but firmly. This is the last time I'll see you, Sarah. I came here today for closure and now I have it. I know why you did what you did. I've heard your apology, and now I'm going to go live my life, the life you tried to take from me. I stood up to leave. At the door, I turned back one more time. I want you to know something, though. Despite everything, I'm glad I had you. For 37 years, you were my daughter and I loved you. Those memories, the good ones before the greed took over, those are mine to keep. You can't poison those. Sarah was sobbing as I left, but I didn't look back. Detective Chen walked me out to my car. That was incredibly difficult, she said. Are you okay? I will be, I replied. Someday, right now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. Sarah's trial happened 3 months later. I didn't attend. I'd already given my deposition, and I couldn't bear to sit through weeks of testimony reliving the worst period of my life. But Jonathan kept me updated. The prosecution had an overwhelming case. The physical evidence, the computer records, the testimony from Dr. Morrison and Tom the pharmacist, the partial confession Sarah had made. Her defense of temporary insanity was torn apart by the prosecution's psychiatric experts, who testified that Sarah had been methodical, calculating, and fully aware of what she was doing. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found her guilty on all counts: attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, and forgery, for the documents she'd tried to create regarding my mental incompetence. The judge sentenced her to 30 years in prison. When Jonathan called to tell me, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, no anger, just a kind of empty acceptance that this chapter was finally over. There's something else, Jonathan said. The judge ordered Sarah to pay restitution, all the money she stole from you using those fake credit cards and financial manipulations. It comes to about $73,000. I don't want it, I said immediately. Give it to the foundation, use it to help other victims of elder abuse. Are you sure? I'm sure. I don't want anything from her. Not her money, not her apologies, not her regret. I just want to move forward. 2 years after that terrible day when Tom slipped me the warning note, I sat in a bookstore in downtown Charleston, signing copies of my memoir. The line stretched out the door and around the block. The Daughter Who Poisoned Me, a best-selling author's true story of survival, had been on the New York Times bestseller list for 42 weeks. It had sold over 2 million copies. The proceeds, over $5 million in royalties, had all gone to the Helena Foundation. The foundation was thriving. We'd opened literacy centers in 12 cities. We'd donated over 500,000 books to underprivileged children. We'd funded programs in schools, libraries, and community centers. We'd also established an elder abuse hotline and resource center, helping hundreds of seniors escape dangerous situations. Emma, now 19 and in college, worked for the foundation during her summers, coordinating the youth literacy programs. Jake, 17 and about to start his senior year, volunteered at the Elder Abuse Hotline, his own experience with Sarah giving him unique insight into family betrayal and manipulation. Marcus had remarried a kind woman named Patricia who taught at his school. They'd invited me to the wedding, and I'd gone, happy to see him finding love again after the nightmare Sarah had put him through. As for me, at 70 years old, I was busier than I'd ever been. Beyond the foundation work, I'd started writing fiction again, a new series about a grandmother who solves crimes in her coastal town. The first book, Murder at Sunset Cottage, had just been published to excellent reviews. Readers loved the protagonist, a sharp, witty older woman who refused to be underestimated because of her age. Mrs. Patterson, a woman in her 60s, approached my signing table, clutching a copy of my memoir. I just wanted to thank you. My son and his wife were doing something similar to me, not poisoning, but financial abuse, isolating me, telling me I was getting confused. Your book gave me the courage to call the police. I got away from them. I got my life back. This happened at every signing, every speaking engagement. Women and men, mostly older, sharing their stories of abuse and survival. Thanking me for speaking up, telling me I'd saved their lives. You saved yourself, I always told them. I just showed you it was possible. As the signing wound down, I noticed a younger woman at the end of the line, mid-30s, professional looking, nervous. When she finally reached my table, she didn't hand me a book to sign. Instead, she handed me a letter. Mrs. Patterson, my name is Dr. Rebecca Harrison. I need to talk to you about something important. Harrison. The same last name as the doctor who diagnosed me with dementia. Are you related to Dr. Harrison, the one who treated me? He was my father, she said quietly. He died 6 months ago, heart attack. But before he died, he confessed something to me, about you, about what he did. I have a letter he wrote, I think you need to read it. She placed an envelope on the table. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. The letter was handwritten in shaky script. To Mrs. Helen Patterson, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But you deserve the truth. Your daughter Sarah came to me 2 years ago before you were even my patient. She told me her mother was showing signs of dementia and she needed documentation for legal purposes. She offered me $50,000 if I would officially diagnose you and provide ongoing documentation of your decline. I was drowning in debt. My practice was failing. My marriage was falling apart. I told myself it was a victimless crime, just paperwork, just words on a page. I told myself that if you really weren't sick, any other doctor could correct my diagnosis. But I knew what I was doing was wrong. I knew I was helping someone abuse an elderly woman, and I did it anyway because I needed the money. When I heard what your daughter had actually been doing, poisoning you, trying to kill you, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. The guilt consumed me. I enabled an attempted murder. I almost helped her get away with it. I'm dying now. Cancer, ironic given that I'm a doctor. I can't make amends to you in person. But I wanted you to know the truth. I wanted my daughter to give you this letter so you'd know that I knew what I'd done, that I was sorry, and that your daughter's evil didn't just corrupt her, it corrupted me too. I've instructed my daughter to return the $50,000 Sarah paid me. It's blood money. I want it to go to your foundation, to maybe do some good in the world to balance the harm I caused. I hope you can forgive me, though I don't deserve it. More than that, I hope you can forgive yourself for any moment you doubted your own mind. You were right. You were always right. You weren't sick. You were being victimized by people you trusted, and I was one of them. I'm sorry, Dr. Michael Harrison. I read the letter twice, my hands shaking. Dr. Rebecca Harrison watched me with tears in her eyes. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know what he'd done until he confessed on his deathbed. The $50,000 he mentioned, I found it in his safe deposit box after he died. Here. She placed a cashier's check on the table. For your foundation. It's what he wanted. I looked at the check, then at this young doctor who was trying to make amends for her father's sins. Your father was trapped by his own desperation, I said finally, just like Sarah was. Desperation makes people do terrible things. I forgive him, and I accept this donation in the spirit he intended as a way to help others to prevent future victims. Thank you, Dr. Rebecca whispered. I've left private practice. I'm working for the state now, investigating elder abuse cases. I want to spend the rest of my career making up for what my father did. Then something good came out of this after all, I said. Your father's guilt led you to a calling. That's a kind of redemption. After she left, I sat alone in the empty bookstore, the letter still in my hands. Jonathan came to drive me home. Everything okay? He asked, seeing my expression. I just got closure on something I didn't know I needed, I said. The doctor who diagnosed me, he was bribed by Sarah. He confessed before he died. His daughter just returned the money. Jonathan shook his head. How many people did Sarah corrupt with her scheme? At least 3 that we know of: herself, Dr. Harrison, and the document forger. But she failed, Jonathan. She failed because one good person, Tom the pharmacist, decided to do the right thing even when it was risky. That's what I want people to remember from this story. Not the betrayal, but the courage of people who stand up for what's right. 3 years after the poisoning, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Sarah, postmarked from the women's correctional facility where she was serving her sentence. I almost threw it away unopened, but something made me hesitate. After 3 years of silence, why was she writing now? I opened it. Dear Mom, I know I have no right to contact you. I know you said our last meeting was the final one, but something happened that I think you'd want to know about. There's a woman in here named Diane. She's 62, serving time for embezzlement. She was stealing from her elderly mother before she got caught. When she heard who I was, the woman who poisoned her mother, she wanted to fight me. She hated me. But then she started talking to me, and I started talking to her. And we realized we'd both done the same thing, betrayed our mothers because we were desperate for money, because we felt entitled to it, because we let greed override love. I've been running a support group in here now with Diane and 3 other women who committed crimes against their elderly parents. We call it breaking the cycle. We talk about what led us to our crimes, how we justified the unjustifiable, how we can warn others not to make the same mistakes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to see you or Emma or Jake. I'm just telling you this because your story, the memoir you wrote, it's being used in here as a teaching tool. The prison counselor uses it in therapy groups. Women read it and see themselves in me, see the path they were going down before they got caught. You're preventing abuse even from inside a prison, Mom. Your courage to speak up is saving people. I'll be eligible for parole in 22 years when I'm 61. I don't know if I'll get it. I don't know if I deserve it. But if I do get out someday, I want to spend the rest of my life doing what you're doing, preventing elder abuse, helping families before greed destroys them. I'm not the daughter you raised. That girl died when greed consumed her. But maybe with decades of work, I can become someone worthy of the name Patterson again. With regret and remorse, Sarah, I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer. I wouldn't respond. That boundary still held. But I was glad to know that something positive was coming from the worst experience of my life, even inside a prison. Emma, who'd come over for Sunday dinner, noticed me putting the letter away. "Was that from her?" she asked quietly. "Yes, she's running a support group in prison for people who committed crimes against their parents." "That's unexpected. People can change even after doing terrible things. Or at least they can try." "Do you think she really means it, the remorse?" "I think she's had 3 years to think about what she did, 3 years to face the consequences, 3 years to become someone different. Whether that change is real or permanent, I don't know, but I hope so, not for my sake, but for hers." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything, sweetheart. Do you still love her?" "After everything?" I thought carefully about my answer. "I love the girl she was. I love the memories of raising her, the good years before greed poisoned her. But the woman she became, the one who tried to kill me, no, I don't love that person. Maybe that makes me a bad mother." "It makes you human," Emma said firmly. "You're allowed to protect yourself even from your own child. You taught me that. You taught Jake that. You've taught thousands of people that through your book and your foundation. Thank you, sweetheart." "No, Grandma, thank you. Thank you for surviving. Thank you for fighting back. Thank you for showing us that being old doesn't mean being powerless. You're the strongest person I know." 5 years after the poisoning, the Helena Foundation threw a gala fundraiser at the Charleston Grand Hotel. The event raised over $2 million in one night for literacy programs and elder abuse prevention. I stood at the podium in an elegant silver gown, looking out at a ballroom filled with supporters, donors, survivors of elder abuse, and advocates for senior rights. 5 years ago, I was 68 years old and being slowly poisoned by my own daughter. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was dying of dementia. I was isolated, confused, and terrified. The room was completely silent. Today, I'm 73 years old. I run a foundation that's helped thousands of seniors. I've written a best-selling memoir and started a new fiction series. I have loving relationships with my grandchildren and with my chosen family, the people who have stood by me through the worst and the best. I paused, seeing faces in the crowd: Tom the pharmacist, who'd been honored earlier for his courage. Dr. Morrison, who'd treated me in the that terrible night. Detectives Chen and Rodriguez, who'd built the case against Sarah. And dozens of seniors I'd helped through the foundation who'd become dear friends. I'm not going to lie and say I'm glad it happened. I'm not. What my daughter did to me was evil. It was cruel. It nearly killed me. But I survived it. And in surviving, I found a purpose I never knew I had. I found a strength I never knew I possessed. I found a voice I never knew I needed. To every person in this room who's been betrayed by family, who's been abused by someone they trusted, who's been made to feel worthless or crazy or like a burden, I want you to know something. You are not alone, you are not powerless, and you are not too old to fight back. The applause was deafening. After the gala, as I was leaving, a young woman stopped me. She was in her 20s holding a copy of my memoir. Mrs. Patterson, I'm a pharmacy student. I read your book in my ethics class. Because of your story, because of what Tom did to save you, I've decided to specialize in geriatric pharmacy. I want to be the person who notices when something's wrong, who has the courage to speak up. I hugged her, this young woman I'd never met who was choosing a career path inspired by my survival. The world needs more people like you, I told her. More people who pay attention, who care, who act. As I drove home that night along the coastal road, windows down, breathing in the salt air, I thought about the journey from that terrible moment in the pharmacy parking lot to this moment of triumph and purpose. I thought about Sarah in her prison cell, hopefully becoming someone better. I thought about Emma and Jake, thriving in their lives, free from the toxicity that had consumed their mother. I thought about Marcus, happy with Patricia, building a new life. I thought about all the seniors I'd helped, all the families we'd educated, all the abuse we'd prevented. And I thought about myself, Helen Patterson, who'd survived being poisoned by her own daughter and transformed that trauma into a mission to protect others. At 73, I was more alive than I'd ever been, more purposeful, more authentic. More myself. The poison hadn't killed me, it had freed me. I'm 76 now, and this morning I received a letter that I never expected to see. It was from the parole board. Sarah had applied for early parole after serving 8 years of her 30-year sentence. She'd been a model prisoner, run multiple support groups, earned 2 college degrees, and worked with the prison counselor to develop a curriculum for preventing elder abuse that was being used in correctional facilities across the country. The parole board was asking for my opinion. Did I support her early release? I sat in my sunroom, the letter in my hands, watching the ocean waves through the window. Emma was visiting for the weekend with her fiancé. Jake was in medical school, planning to specialize in geriatric medicine. Marcus sent me cards for every holiday, and we had lunch together once a month. My foundation had expanded to 30 cities. We'd helped over 10,000 seniors escape abusive situations. My crime fiction series had become bestsellers, with The Grandmother Detective inspiring a new generation of readers to see older women as powerful, capable, and complex. I'd built an entire life from the ashes of betrayal. The question was, did Sarah deserve to be part of it? I picked up my phone and called the parole board coordinator. I've thought about your question, I told her. About whether I support Sarah's early release. And what's your answer, Mrs. Patterson? My answer is this: Sarah committed a terrible crime. She tried to murder me for money. She deserves to serve her full sentence as punishment for that. So you oppose the parole? I'm not finished, I said. She deserves punishment, yes. But from what I've read in the reports you sent me, she's also done genuine work to change herself. She's helped other inmates. She's educated people about elder abuse. She's become someone different from the woman who poisoned me. So do you support or oppose? I'm abstaining, I said finally. I won't support it because I can't forget what she did. But I won't oppose it either because I believe in redemption. Let the parole board decide based on her merit, not my trauma. She'll have to live with what she did for the rest of her life, whether that's in prison or outside it. That's very generous of you. It's not generosity, I corrected. It's boundaries. I'm done letting Sarah's choices control my life. Whether she's in prison or free, whether she's remorseful or not, whether she changes or doesn't, none of that is my burden to carry anymore. I've moved on. After I hung up, Emma came into the sunroom. Was that about Mom? She asked. She never said my mother anymore, just Mom, a word that had become more history than relationship. Yes, they asked if I support her parole. What did you say? I said it's not my decision to make. Emma nodded, looking out at the ocean. Jake and I talked about it. If she gets out, we don't want to see her. Not yet, maybe not ever. Is that wrong? No, sweetheart, you get to protect yourselves. That's not wrong. That's wisdom. Did you ever think when you were raising her that she'd try to kill you? Never, not in my wildest nightmares. But I also never thought I'd survive it and build something meaningful from the pain. Life is full of surprises, both terrible and beautiful. I'm glad you survived, Grandma. So am I, sweetheart, so am I. Sarah was granted parole 3 months later. She was released on a sunny Tuesday morning with strict conditions, mandatory therapy, community service with elder advocacy organizations, and a restraining order preventing her from contacting me unless I initiated it. I didn't reach out, neither did Emma or Jake. Marcus sent her one text. I hope you've truly changed, but we're not ready to find out. She moved to a different state, started working at a nonprofit that helped families dealing with financial stress, and began speaking at conferences about how greed and desperation can corrupt even familial love. I followed her career from a distance, through newspaper articles and event postings. She never tried to contact me, honoring the boundaries I'd set. But in every speech she gave, every article written about her, she was honest about what she'd done. She never made excuses, she never played the victim. Maybe she had changed. Maybe 8 years in prison and a lifetime of regret had transformed her into someone capable of genuine remorse and meaningful contribution. Or maybe not, maybe it was all performance. I would never know because I chose not to find out. Some bridges once burned should stay burned. Some relationships once poisoned can never be fully healed. But I could acknowledge that people contain multitudes, capable of both great evil and great good, often within the same lifetime. Sarah had been both the daughter who loved me and the daughter who tried to murder me. Those contradictions could exist simultaneously, and I could acknowledge both without having to reconcile them or let her back into my life. Now, at 76, I wake up every morning in my cottage by the sea. I make coffee and watch the sunrise. I work on my latest novel, the 8th in the Grandmother Detective series. I answer emails from the foundation. I talk to Emma about her wedding plans and Jake about his medical cases. I live a full, rich, purposeful life. And every morning when I take my real vitamins, the ones I buy myself, the ones I know are safe, I think about Tom the pharmacist who saved my life with a single note. I think about Dr. Morrison who believed me when I needed belief. I think about detectives Chen and Rodriguez who built the case that gave me justice. I think about all the people who helped me survive when my own daughter tried to kill me. And I'm grateful, not for the poisoning itself, but for discovering who I really was when I was forced to fight for my life. I discovered I was strong. I discovered I was resilient. I discovered I was valuable not because of what I could give others, but because of who I was. In that discovery, that knowledge that I was worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth celebrating, that was the greatest gift I ever gave myself. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect. This is Auntie Rose reminding you, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And you're never too old to save yourself. Until next time, darlings.